Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Max Hollein. I'm the director and CEO of the Metropolitan Museum. On behalf of the Met, it's my profound honor to welcome you here to a very special exhibition preview. An exhibition preview and a conversation about Superfine, Tailoring Black Style, which will be our major exhibition that we will open at the Met and will be open to the public as of May 10. So we gather here, of course, in the great Billie Holiday Theater at Restoration Plaza in Brooklyn, a place so rich with culture and cultural significance. And I also like to express my deepest gratitude to the incredible team at the Billie Holiday Theater, including the President and Chief Executive Officer, Blondell Pinnock, the Executive Vice President, Shadawn Smith, Kyria Cameron, Nina Flowers, Hollis King, and Chevron Goff. Thank you. Thank you for your support, and thank you for making this program possible. At the Met, we want to make sure not only that you understand and see what's in preparation for this exhibition, but also seeing that community lies at the heart of our mission, and we're deeply honored to bring this exhibition and this conversation here to Brooklyn, a place, of course, where art and culture thrives. And before we do that, I'd like to take a moment to recognize Andrew Bolton, who is here, the Wendell Yu curator in charge of the Costume Institute. It is really Andrew's visionary leadership and his dedication not only to the Met, but really to exploring in his great programs the intersection of fashion, culture, history, in its most complex and most profound way. And he's been instrumental in bringing this exhibition to life. I also want to acknowledge our great Met trustee, Anna Wintour, who is here with us, Global Editorial Director of Vogue and Chief Content Officer of Condé Nast, and really an outstanding woman who is there for the Met, for these exhibitions, and for the program that you are now going to be having a preview of. And it's now my distinct pleasure to introduce the esteemed Met guest curator, Monica L. Miller. Monica does a lot of things, but the last 12 months she has been thinking Superfine, she has been breathing Superfine, and she has been sleeping at night, waking up thinking about Superfine. If she's not doing Superfine, Monica serves as chair of Africana studies at the Barnard College, Columbia University, and she's, of course, a renowned scholar of contemporary African American and Afro-diasporic literature and cultural studies. It is her 2009 book, Slaves to Fashion, Black Dandyism and the Styling of Black Diasporic Identity, which inspired Superfine. That book received also the William Saunders Scarborough Prize for outstanding contribution to the study of Black American literature and culture, and it was shortlisted for the Modernist Studies Association Book Prize. We are extremely grateful for all her work and all her dedication to this important program, and I hope you will welcome her again with a lot of applause, and you will appreciate the exhibition that she's preparing for the Met. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you all for being here for this preview of Superfine. I am delighted and very excited to be here with you tonight. I'm going to take just a few minutes to say a little bit about the exhibition and its relationship to the creative, independent, and distinct spirit and style of Afro-diasporic Brooklyn, which we're here to highlight and to celebrate. When I was revising my book, or revisiting my book on Black Dandyism that would inspire this exhibition, I first learned of Brooklyn's Weeksville community. Founded in 1838 by free, self-determining Black people. The second largest free Black community in pre-Civil War America, Weeksville created and maintained its own institutions, including schools, churches, and 2 newspapers for a diverse population of Black people as their residents hailed from the North, the South, the Caribbean, and Africa. Weeksville residents were eager to invest in their futures. According to historians, by their own actions, they defined what was important to them: physical safety, education, economic self-sufficiency, and political self-determination. Destroyed after the Civil War due to urban redevelopment and only rediscovered in 1968, Weeksville's spirit was never lost, and in many ways defines the Black communities here in Brooklyn, who represent the reach and breadth of the African diaspora, and who are fiercely independent and desirous of building and supporting a local culture that values creativity and entrepreneurship. For me, Brooklyn is a center of what Black Studies professor and artist Shadawn Crowley calls Black otherwiseness, a kind of anti-establishmentarianism that insists on independence and celebrates difference within Black communities and cultures. Brooklyn is home to Weeksville and the Afro-Punk Festival. It boasts countless famous natives known for style, and I will admit, I had to choose like 3. I chose Spike Lee, Jay-Z, and Lil' Kim. Closer to home, Brooklyn birthed Chantrell Lewis's Dandelion Project, which featured the creative elegance of Brooklyn lions like Ouija Theodore of Brooklyn Circus, and Travis Gums and Joshua Kesey, formerly of Street Etiquette. The borough is or has been home to the designers who will join me in a minute, and others like Kirby Jean Raymond of Pierre Moss, who staged the second of his iconic American Also shows at the Weeksville Heritage Center in Crown Heights. Brooklyn has always had an independent, as I said before, creative spirit that is funky, fierce, and FUBU. For us, by us. I'd like to take a quick look at a few sections of the exhibition relevant to this spirit and the designers here with us tonight. Superfine is organized in 12 sections, inspired by Zora Neale Hurston's 1934 essay, Characteristics of Negro Expression. Superfine doesn't use Hurston's exact categories, but instead presents others that define, but are not definitive of Black dandyism. In addition to garments and accessories, paintings, prints, decorative art objects, and film illustrate the history of Black dandyism in the exhibition. So tonight, we're going to look at ownership, distinction, freedom, and heritage. I'm going to go back one. Okay. Ownership explores Black dandyism in relationship to conspicuous consumption and currency through the material signifiers of gold and silver, and highlights the dialectic between being fashioned by others and fashioning the self. Dandy does not have a definitive etymology, but the word might be derived from a 16th century silver coin known as a dandiprat, which is seen here on the right. Your right, maybe. Dandyism is thus associated with the multiple meanings of currency and forms of exchange. We contrast this in the exhibition with the Kalinago coin by Soull and Dynasty Ogun, who are here with us tonight for La Chantour. The reimagined currency of the indigenous Carib peoples of the Lesser Antilles who inhabited the islands prior to Spanish colonization in the 15th century. The coin is cast with the image of an ancestor and represents an object of personal and cultural value and a currency independent of European systems. Oh my goodness, that was too much. Going back. Sorry about this. Oh, okay. At once objectified and individualized, the young man in this painting by Hyacinth Rigaud bears a wide metal collar to indicate his enslavement. His luxurious silk garments and turban render him an embodiment of the exotic and luxurious. Rigaud, who was himself the son of a tailor, lavished attention on the sumptuous textiles worn by this unnamed man, with the collar as that which distinguishes this portrait from the artist's many portraits of European aristocracy. Juxtaposed to this is an assemblage of L'Enchanteur's Le Goldwill coins, stamped with an image of the designer's mother, commenting on and transforming the oppressive symbolism of the gold in the previous portrait to a symbol of value, self-worth, and reverence for ancestors. The cowrie shells and faceted symbols embroidered on this ensemble by Grace Wells Bonner recall the decorative trim of fashionable men's dress in the 18th century. From an early collection called Ebonics, this ensemble explores the visual language of blackness and dress. Cowrie shells were once used as currency in Africa, East Asia, and the West Indies, and are a potent symbol of Afro-diasporic connection and pride today. Distinction. Military dress symbolizes fastidiousness and political and cultural authority. Distinction explores the ways in which men embody this dress, infusing received meanings and silhouettes with new, radical meaning. This section has a focus on Haiti and Black self-determination. Inspired by Enlightenment philosophy and the French Revolution's emphasis on the rights of man, Toussaint Louverture led a revolt by the formerly enslaved in 1804, establishing Haiti as the first independent Black republic in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, Toussaint. No known image of Louverture made from life exists, and this 1804 portrait or painting was made after his death and was recently rediscovered and will be shown publicly for the first time in Superfine. On the left are glass and brass buttons once thought to have been owned by Louverture and affixed to his dress uniform. They portray scenes of life in the Caribbean island of Dominica, commenting on the period's race and class structures via skin tones and styles of dress, the very hierarchies that Toussaint sought to overthrow. The inheritance of masculine swagger and personal pride in revolutionary times is exemplified here by Thomas Alexander Dumas, the father of celebrated French novelist and dandy Alexander Dumas. Thomas Alexander was the son of an enslaved Haitian woman and a French general of noble birth. He fought in the French Revolution and was the first person of color to attain a high rank in the army. This painting depicts his stylish confidence and, as I said before, swagger. His son inherited his father's wardrobe, leading to his own styling out. British-based Jamaican Caymanian designer Jawara Allen seemingly recontextualizes this revolutionary history in this 2021 ensemble, which is reminiscent of Thomas Alexander's heroic silhouette and attitude. Disguise. Fashion and dress can disguise or reveal, especially for those negotiating the fraught line between subjugation and liberation. Dandyism enabled the enslaved and free to convey the ways that identity is dependent upon and manipulated by sartorial conventions. As seen in runaway advertisements, people escaping enslavement understood that clothing and dress communicate social hierarchies and mark people as both individuals and as belonging to undifferentiated groups. Some absconding people escaped with whole wardrobes of clothing that they used to disguise themselves and to fund their journeys and new lives once free, as they sold that clothing on the secondhand clothing market. Photographed in 1864 after escaping from the North Carolina plantation where he was enslaved, William Hedley's self-styling gave an appearance of confidence and sartorial flair. On the verso of this carte de visite, we have this description of him. His clothes were of many colors and qualities. His cloak consisted of an old cotton grain bag, slit open on one side and raveled, which gives the appearance of a rich fringe. He appeared perfectly happy and satisfied upon reaching Union lines. Who Decides War's jacket and trousers made of suit remnants patchworked together, some wrong side up, suggest improvised and haphazard construction. But in fact, this suit is expertly made. Designer Ev Bravado learned the trade from his father, a tailor. This suit conveys a signature tenet of Bravado and Téla d'Amore's design practice, the deconstruction and reconfiguration of sartorial form, a commentary or study on the construction of the suit as much as the self. Freedom. Freedom explores the anxieties about Black social mobility that coalesced around issues of dress and comportment in the decades before the Civil War. From the 1820s, successful Black men, some of whom had been free for generations, adopted bourgeois dress and manners to express their social and political ambitions. These men, like Philadelphia's James Forten, a wealthy abolitionist and scion of the community, and an unnamed gentleman pictured here, commissioned and sat for portraits that communicated their wealth, power, and self-assurance via their stylish, refined clothing and impeccable grooming. At the same time that these men had a considerable measure of success, and a Black middle or upper middle class was forming, a new representational regime, the blackface minstrel show, emerged to mock this striving and desire for equality and citizenship. Blackface minstrelsy was the most popular form of entertainment in the 19th century, and its stereotypes are an enduring challenge to Black representation. The cakewalk, a high-energy dance that was a feature of the minstrel show, seemingly mocked Black pretension to fashionable society. However, the dance was actually appropriated from a satire of the airs of white slaveholders by the enslaved. When Black folks danced the cakewalk, especially in the later 19th century, as in this film still, the character of Black society was itself critiqued, creating a liberating and joyous celebration of the power of expressive culture. This is something that Ralph Ellison, in a later essay in the 1950s, this exchange, something that he would say is related to changing the joke and slipping the yoke. This ensemble by Virgil Abloh for Louis Vuitton represents new forms of men's dress that mock and play with society's insistence on propriety and a wearer's desire to dress properly. The tuxedo's outsized proportions, colorful charms, and paper-like hat convey a playfulness present in the gestures of the cakewalk performers. Heritage. Fashion can bridge gaps in Afro-diasporic history, as clothing and dress are able to relay personal stories and explore familial histories essential to building self-confidence, community, and a sense of belonging. Since the 1960s, people in the African diaspora have worn clothing with African motifs and themes as a point of pride and connection, like the colorful kufi skull cap seen here in this 1977 portrait by Barclay Hendricks called Slick. The kufi on the left is in the Costume Institute's collection. Hendricks included the kufi as a colorful contrast to his impeccably tailored white suit, along with other accessories like a gold necklace and earring, as well as colored sunglasses and a toothpick. Dressed in this way, he's the epitome of cool. Fashion director and style icon Andre Leon Talley expressed pride in his heritage here in a 1975 Polaroid. Yes, Andre. A Polaroid from his days as a graduate student at Brown University. This improvised outfit of a draped textile and another kufi anticipates his ordering later of a regal custom kaftan by Nigerian designer Patience Torlowe in 2020, which is also in the Costume Institute's collection. Finally, Brooklyn's own Jacques Agbobli uses color and pattern derived from their Togolese heritage to enliven their designs. The ensemble on the right is inspired by patterns of Ghana must-go bags that West African immigrants used to transport goods around the diaspora. First known for the label Black Boy Knits, Agbobli's non-binary gender identity also informs their designs. The hand-beaded denim ensemble recalls the earrings that Agbobli's aunts wore to church services, as well as the beads used in hair braiding. His mother's first job as an immigrant to the US was in a hair braiding studio, a place of creativity, design, and community. The inspiration that contemporary designers and wearers take from African and Afro-diasporic heritage and history can be general or imagined, more specific or personal. In every case, it fuels innovation formally and conceptually as it honors those who came before. Okay. So I want you to help me join our panelists or bring them out here, give them a round of applause, and we'll get the conversation started. Okay, good evening and welcome. So we have Bravado, Téla from Who Decides War, and Soull and Dynasty Ogun from La Chanteur. Welcome them. Okay, so when we were talking about this panel a couple of days ago, all of you spoke about your childhoods and the kind of influences that surrounded you at home and also out on the streets. I want you to tell me about the cultures that you encountered and negotiated and that were incorporated into your young design minds, right? So tell me a little bit about that. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Thank you.
Well, Dynasty and I are from Flatbush, Brooklyn. Flatbush! And growing up, inside of our household was very culturally, there was a melting pot already happening in the household. So our mom is from Dominica in the West Indies, and our dad is from Nigeria, and we're first generation. So while we were trying to exhibit being from Flatbush, in the house, there was a lot of, Caribbean, African happening, whether it was the music, the food, the clothing, the way that our parents dressed and the way that they dressed us. And then when we stepped outside, there was also that larger spectrum of this melting pot. So, it's heavily Caribbean inspired in Flatbush, but then the cousin would be Crown Heights, and that was like a huge Hasidic Jewish community. And that also inspired the way that Dynasty and I approach clothing and style. So we had all of these different cultures the moment that we stepped outside. Mm-hmm. And even growing up with some of our friends who were generationally Black American, that was another thing. So There was a lot of trying to blend in, wanting just, the white uptowns, and my mom getting us, the cream uptowns, and, wanting us to be a little bit different, and also adding the Caribbean flair to our clothing and our style. So I would say that was a major influence, for sure.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Well, my grandmother had a church not too far from here, 1191 Bedford Avenue. So Sunday mornings, as a lot of us know as Black people, African American people, Caribbean American people, is when you put on the finest. And my dad being a tailor and coming over to the country, he's from Barbados. My mom's from Stuyvesant. Shouting out the islands. It was an affair to see everyone get dressed on Sunday morning, and that's something that really molded Téla and I's designs as we grew the business and as we were trying to tell our story in a more refined and tailored way.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off of that, I mean, so much of what we had created, is so elaborate and crazy. But then when we came back to this hyper fine kind of lens of tailoring as we grew our business, it felt almost second nature to have seen these textiles and very just this sharpness throughout life without looking for it. It was just there. So it almost felt like second nature. With my family, I'm half Italian. My mom is a straight up Jersey Italian, and then my dad is Afro-Latino from Honduras. So I had a melting pot within the home. But then also I would be nothing in this space that I've grown to without shouting out my godmother, who is my mom's best friend, who is Ghanaian and Nigerian, and came straight from there, and they raised their children together in Brookline, Massachusetts, and so she was always wearing the most elaborate and intricate pieces, and that is where I really had my first exposure to meticulous hand dyeing and to applique and a lot of the just original textiles that are now referenced so heavily today by us as well.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. One of the things that unites what you both were talking about here is a real, I think, and I want to hear you say a little bit more about this. A real combination of, I think, what you were saying, Téla, about there being a kind of like fine line for, you had many examples of, either tailoring or a fine line or that kind of thing, but then also streetwear. So I wanted you to say a little bit more about how those things were, especially as you were, growing up. Yeah, how those things came together. Dynasty.
I mean, I think everybody can speak for themselves, but I think we come from the street. We was out in the streets a lot. Just exploring ourselves and seeing what life looked like. I think streetwear comes from that. Soull and I came from an underground party scene in the LES where we all met up, and we were called Saint Noir, and that was like really, really heavy street scene. And everybody came there to dance to house music, hip hop, reggae, dance hall, and trying to explore what that looked like for ourselves. We were dealing with a lot of like prints and textures and textiles, and we were just really having a ball. And I think streetwear represented that, and then we wanted to explore what that would look like in a luxurious kind of style, bringing what I would say, sometimes you're saying bringing streetwear to the luxurious field. So I see Eve with the with the do-rag, and that was like a major thing for us as well, to explore what the higher end version of that would look like, exploring higher end textiles instead of just, cotton is really naturally luxurious to us, but also seeing what that would look like in silks and just different fabrics and prints, and the way that we would, demonstrate what that would look like for us, I would say. Anyone else?
Well, the streets, like just here in Nostrand Ave, Pitkin Avenue, that's where, when I was young, my dad took me to shop. He used to go to like Jimmy Jazz and like all these places. That to me was like high fashion. At the time it was like
S&D Underground.
Yeah, like Inichi, all those brands, Rockefeller, Rockaware. But the influence of the street style has changed, because when I was growing up, it's what you see outside. And then it was like, okay, what am I seeing on like 106 and Park?
Right.
Facts.
And then next it's like, okay, there's Tumblr. And like, I'm a product of Tumblr. And it's like, the 14th Street Hell Square meetups, when everyone was dressing crazy and like Afropunk. And then now it's like, you have TikTok and Instagram, and everything is like everything's core. But, back in the day, it was like the sex of people and actually live that life. If you actually danced, you were in ballerina flats. You weren't just doing it in your Miu. You know what I'm saying?
It's so curated now.
Yeah.
It's so curated, but at the time it was wild and free.
It was more authentic.
Yeah.
And, we're a product of that true form. And, shouts to Virgil Abloh, my mentor, who, really broke the door down to be like, okay, streetwear is not just something on the streets. This is a way of life, and this can be high luxury. It's not something for people to like turn their nose up on. And that's something that we fight. We all fight to break that mold every day, because just because it's streetwear doesn't mean that it's black, it's urban.
Right.
And just because we're making clothes, it doesn't mean that it's streetwear or that we're immediately a streetwear brand. And Virgil was one of the first people that, we would speak about it quietly amongst ourselves. Virgil, everybody who was in this kind of community of people of color that were within the fashion space, but he was the first person that we were all like kind of standing behind, that was able to have this conversation out loud with the kind of platform that it deserved, to say that, you know, this does not equal streetwear. Streetwear is simply clothing that is imaged on the street or seen on the street. It doesn't matter where it has come from. And we've always, you know, the thing about streetwear is more street style, that you can't, I said it when we were initially speaking, you can't put a dollar amount on style. And, you know, that's where, if there's anything that we're pulling from exactly what Ev is saying, the people that are really of it, and the people that really live this every day. And it's just about how we bring that to the highest level and the highest platform that we have.
Ow! Soull, anything?
So I want to change the topic a little bit. One of the things that I was really excited to talk to you both about is the fact that you're duos, right? And that you're twin sisters and life partners. I don't know.
Yeah.
I should have asked you ahead of time how you want to be described.
No, yeah.
But so I'm really interested in the importance of doing this together, right? And how did your ideas come together, right, to become L'Enchanteur, or Who Decides War? We also talked a little bit about, you were supposed to be thinking about how you delegate, right, and use each other's strengths. How does that work?
Dynasty and I are like twins, so you know.
Yeah.
Like, did you feel that?
But you didn't. It's really hot.
No, but
Our mother used to tell us,
Yes.
if someone asked us if we were twins, tell them that we're
cousins.
cousins.
So
Okay.
that was like a joke.
All right.
But
So
but Dynasty and I, like, we're very similar and we're very different at the same time. And we are, well, the things that make us similar are the things that we're interested in. So we're definitely interested in, like, knowledge, self-healing, spirituality, mysticism. Like, we're into that, you know?
Power.
You know what I'm saying? So
Empowerment.
Empowerment. So because of that, that is the way that we position how we work. So our work is, you know, a manifestation of those traits that we have. Then our differences are the ways that we approach those things, or the way that we design. But we do like the same thing in different variations of it. I would say that Dynasty is way more like Prince, you know? As you can see.
I mean, you're wearing Prince right now as well.
But my prints are a little bit more subtle. It's gonna be like all black, or
Okay.
you know, it's like the yin and yangs, the balance of what it is, and we'll do that invertedly as well. You know, so the way that we bring strengths, I think that Dynasty is based on, like, her name is like dynamite. You know what I mean? It's like the power of the dynasty. So it's going to be that, like, the ideas. And we both have ideas, but it's the ideas, and I might come in and try to, like, refine what that is.
Right.
And vice versa. We do it together, but I think that that's the way that we're driven in our strengths and how we delegate to one another. It's very fluid also.
did you always work together?
Yes and no. Yes. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes. But
Yes.
and no.
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
I mean, we one of the things that we did when we were younger, we were placed a lot together because we're twins.
Right.
And we wanted to have our own individuality, our own individual selves. And we thought that our power came with exploring our individual selves. We thought that we'd be stronger if we branched out individually and then came back with that individual knowledge.
Right.
So it would be like double the knowledge into the one space that we would have,
Yes.
and the power that we can use with that. So, yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, you know.
Yes and no.
I know. And what about you two?
Yeah, I mean, everything that we do is pretty much a duo, I would say.
But you, Ev, you had a brand before Téla came in.
I had a few.
You had a few, okay.
I mean, you know, it was a time where I was figuring myself out.
Right.
But we met at the Bravado iteration of my
Okay,
life.
got it.
Makes sense.
Yes, the tail end of Lease on Life Society, which was the brand prior.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, we met on the street we met on Ludlow Street, and I had a packet of designs, and he was like, he was looking for a women's wear designer, and we met, and handed him this 2014, handed him this packet of designs right outside in the street. We had nowhere to meet up. We had nothing. And I handed him this packet of designs and was like, hey, call me. And turns out I was like one of 2 people that had responded to his Instagram story. So then, you know, we ended up working together, and we've kind of been inseparable ever since. And just, I guess, our creativity and how we work together.
I always harken back to like when we met. You had this analogy like I was a balloon and you were like trying to catch it, like trying to like bring it back down. But now that time has like passed, I feel like it goes for both of us. And the number one thing is like not to limit each other in terms of creativity or just like ventures that we want to do. You know, it's just like supporting each other and like at the end of the day, like what's gonna make the most sense for the brand, for us, for our legacy and lineage 10, 20, 40, 100 years from now. So it's like really thinking about what is after us, because my parents, they thought about me. Yeah. And my grandparents thought about them. So it's like we have to do the knowledge and think about everyone ahead of us and not just be like now.
Right. Yeah. And I just think that exactly to that, like, I used to say he was a red balloon like floating in the sky, and it was my job to tether it. But and figure out, you know, give it some structure, give it a beginning, a middle, and an end. But now, yeah, exactly. We've both gone in the same. We will run in the same direction very often, and for, you know, whatever idea it is, it's like, how can we realize this on the craziest level? So the 2 of us, I guess that's how we work together. It's really not much yin and yang. It's really just running toward it. What we've decided, and that's the number one thing I will say though, is that we decide on it. And we know what it is, and we have that trust between each other where it's like, okay, we've decided on this. We decided on this back then. You said it. Okay, right? Witness. And then we go crazy. So that's essentially how it goes.
Okay. So when we first started thinking about this panel and thinking about the fact that you all are duos and work together, you know, one of the words that we came up with, but I was very unhappy with, so I'm just put it out there, like, and thinking also about Brooklyn, right? When I mentioned Weeksville, I was really thinking about quote unquote entrepreneurial spirit, right? But I'm also curious about the word entrepreneur. Is that a word that you would use to talk about what you do, and or you know, either what you do or what you sort of aspire to do? And if it's not, what is a word, right, that would describe? Maybe it's like describing your business, right? Or even some combination of your business and design philosophy. Like, how do you think about what you're doing, not just in terms of design, but the actual kind of like a little bit of the business of it, right? How does that work for you all?
So I would say I like the term entrepreneur.
Okay.
Because I feel like our people that came before us were more of like hustlers or trying to make a way.
Sure.
I think my mom was always creating something and trying to benefit off of her creations instead of working for someone else. And I remember I found some crafts in the house, and my father was like, we made a lot of money off of that. And I was like, oh, okay. What did that mean? How did you pursue it? How did you grow the business? And they didn't necessarily know how to do it because they didn't really necessarily have, they didn't have a business structure. They didn't necessarily know how to expand in that sense because they probably didn't look at themselves as entrepreneurs.
Okay.
They looked at themselves as like, mama, like, I'm cooking food and I'm selling it. I'm selling plates.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And then, you know, I'm selling crafts. And then I'm selling crystals. And then I'm having crystal parties. But then, so, you know, like, Soull and I, we took it to another level. We didn't necessarily have that lingo either because they didn't necessarily have it. But we decided to learn. And you know, those crystal parties that my mother threw when she would gather all her friends around and it was community and they would purchase and things like that. We discovered a way to do that and take it another step further.
Right.
We decided to take the food and the culture and the way in which we fed our friends another step further. And I think that deals with entrepreneurship in the way in which you can not only just survive off of what your talents are, but to thrive
Right.
off of what your talents are.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Soull.
I'll agree with that. And actually, Dynasty and I did a program called FIT Entrepreneurship.
Oh, there you go.
And that really transformed our brand into this. And we had the brand previously, but it gave us another version of structure that not only we didn't necessarily have, but it's not that fun. It's not the luxurious aspect of fashion. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm getting dressed, I'm going to this party. It's like crunching numbers.
spreadsheet.
How much money did you make? What's a P&L?
Yeah.
Like, what is the business?
Sure.
You know, and once you know what your business is, then you have a business.
Right.
Or do you have an expensive, what do they say?
Expensive hobby.
Hobby.
Yeah, yeah.
Expensive hobby.
Yeah.
So I think harping off of what Dynasty said about our parents, very talented, brilliant people, but they didn't have the language. And also they were like raising, Dynasty and I are the last of 6 kids. Like they weren't trying to figure out what entrepreneurship essentially was. And they did create the atmosphere for us to thrive in our craftsmanship and our talents.
Right, in the creative piece.
And the creative piece, but you know, Dynasty and I are gonna go read a book on how to build a business. Boring, but we're gonna do it because you gotta do that part. Because once you merge those two things together, you will thrive.
Yeah. And they nurture, sounds like they nurture the creative part so that
They
you could
definitely did.
add the other part.
I mean, exactly. Like we can go out and self-discover,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also part of self-discovery. Is really finding the unconscious thing that you have to make conscious all the time.
I know. So what do you guys think about that word? Does it work for you?
I think it's, I think it works in tandem with the tasks for
Does
that
it
are there.
mean only tasks?
For, you know, I just think that on the business side of things, yes, that's where the entrepreneurship has come in to play. Like that word is immediately what I equate with all of the things that we have, exactly what is being said, the non-glamorous side of things, the buckling down, really making sure that you know the ins and outs of what's going on. God bless a P&L and everything that, you know, all of the non-glamorous side of things that make it run. And my mom always said to me, you know, you have to do what you have to do to be able to do what you want to do. And I think that that's the entrepreneurship. You have to know what you're doing. Exactly that. You can't just have an expensive hobby when we're doing, I mean, we'd love to. Love a sponsor. But we can't always, it's not that easy. You do have to be self-sustaining to be able to create. And then those creations do have to cycle back in to, you know, what you're doing. And I mean, we call that the bottom line. But so it does have to all be cyclical. Ev, is there anything you would?
I don't know. I feel like I'm a little like weird, where it's like I have this idea of a world that like we're building, right? So it's like, for me, I feel like everything is super intentional, right? And it's like, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And luckily, people like it. So, you know, that's been able to like feed the beast in terms of the accountant, the lawyers, and all these type of things. But I really feel at the end of the day, it's world building, because I want to create something that people could come into and they feel. So it's like every piece of clothing that we made is a part of that world. It's a character, it's a story. And the stained glass motif is something you see all over the world. And it's something that we've adapted and made ours. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's where I would like to put like what
It does.
what we're doing.
Yeah. And that really, I think we have time for one more question. And that really, I know, right? I'm getting a signal.
So soon?
So soon, but this is a good question, though. So this is really related to what you were just saying, Ev. I wanted to think a little bit with you all about sustainability, right? And in particular, when we were talking before, you all had really interesting things to say about the relationship, in particular between the sustainability of your ideas and of your business and its relationship to communities, right? Different kinds of communities. We just talked about, you mentioned, Ev, there's islands, right? You all were talking about, Soull and Dynasty were talking about immigrants, right? Multiple identities. We talked about squads, blocks, areas of the hood, right? Block parties, barbecues, and cookouts, right? So I'm really interested in thinking, how would you describe how you think about sustainability, how you think about futurity, right, for your work, whether that's something that's about how you're designing, right, or how it is that you're presenting your work to the world.
I would say beautifully being in like the world of jewelry kind of promotes sustainability in its own right, because even when we were designing, or when we first started designing, we obviously, well, not obviously, but we were definitely using like base metals, brass, copper, silver. And we still were designing in a way that we were creating these heirlooms,
Right.
things that would sustain time.
Yes.
And also sustain, wearability. And in doing so, we were thinking about the things that we, things that would be passed down to us from our mother and our father and their parents. And, a lot of it can be like knowledge and information. And we were thinking about like, how do we create clothing, jewelry, this world that can be passed down, that outlives us. And I think sustainability can be looked at as ideas and not just the material, but also when you infuse both of those things together, you have things that like outlive you. And I think that creates sustainability. Like even right now, us sitting and talking to this audience, there's a sense of sustainability because the information is being passed on, and then they might go and pass it on to their friend and then pass it on. It's like, that's sustainability as well. I think that's one part of it, how I look at it.
I think sustainability heavily lies in community. Sustainability it's incredibly important to, I think it plays in with design as the intentional, as Ev was saying, being really intentional about what is being created. I think you owe that to your community once you start to build it. That you have all these people that are paying attention, and you do have to give your heart to that. You do have to give who you are and what you've built. You do have to sustain that. So I would say, and when you do that, your community it's tenfold. It comes back to you. So that's if I could say anything, that really simply sustainability really lies and has lied for us, and a major part of the success of our business has been community and world building, and making sure that our community is able to have access to that world as well. So providing lateral opportunities and making sure that people can come in our doors and our studios in the middle of us producing a collection, and we're hosting a workshop, and people can come in and come see what we're doing, but then also do something themselves, and not have to buy anything either. That's a huge thing, is that when you come in, it's not a cash grab for us. We're coming in to genuinely connect, bring in your own pair of denim, bring in whatever you've got in your closet, and then come, and we've got some patches, and come put a patch on it, and come talk to us, come chat. Like, it doesn't have to be so, and I think that's it. That authenticity is also what,
Horizontal.
It's created a lot for us. So that's where our sustainability
I love
lies.
that. Because for me, it's like, do not enter.
And I think for us too, it's like, the reason why we create is to bring beauty into the world. It's not to make money. Like, of course, it was cool to make money, but we're artists first and foremost, and just to be here on this stage is a blessing to talk about like the pieces that we made. So I think that's what keeps it going, what keeps it sustainable, is because the heart's in it. So many times, there's houses and brands, like the head creator goes away, and then there's no soul left. So it's like, if you create that world where it's like, this is the soul, and these are like the mantras. We have motifs that we live by within the brand. It's like something that we know we don't talk about, but it's like, when we get old, when we get to a certain age, it's like whoever's coming in to like design or push, it's like, okay,
Right.
this is the reason why you're doing it. It doesn't matter if Saks wants like 5 T-shirts. If we have 2 T-shirts, and that's how we feel, then that's how we feel. It's like not feeding the beasts of the marketplace, and that's where I feel like a lot of things get lost, and that's why this.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we have to wrap up a little bit before we're going to get some questions from the audience. But one of the things that I just want to say to both of you that I really appreciate about your designs is I do feel that in different ways, right, your brands are really sort of windows, right? You're using actual windows, right? And you're creating sort of, objects and other things that are kind of portals and keys, right? So what you say there, Ev, about there being soul in the work, right, is so true, right? I think of both of the work that you're doing, even though it's so different, because it seems to be really, really based in, I think, between the two of you, there's trust, right? There's trust that you all have with each other, but also the trust that you place in what you know, right? And I think that's really important. I want to just sort of honor that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have questions coming. I think someone is supposed to be moderating. She's coming. She's behind me. I can't see her.
Here we go.
I need
Hi.
some water.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We have a few questions from our in-person audience and our online audience, and apologies in advance. We probably won't get through them all, but you'll have ample time during the run of the exhibition to engage with Monica, the Met staff, with our partners, and get up close and personal. So Monica, we'll ask you, let me do that. There we go. The first question.
Okay.
Can you tell us how you translated your book into an exhibition?
That's a great question, and one that I think about a lot. And the first thing I'll do is I thank Andrew for actually asking me and giving me the privilege of doing so, because he allowed me or encouraged me to reimagine a book that I had written 15 years ago, and said, here's an opportunity to rethink it, right? To change it from text and visual culture into, garments and other kinds of objects, which was just a fantastic creative experience. I think I'll just say one thing very quickly about that. One of the things that was really important to me, and that you all also mentioned here, I'm a cultural historian, so what was really important to me initially was what are the historical objects, right, that we can anchor this narrative on. And so finding those historical objects and then thinking about the stories that the multiple stories that those objects allow us to tell, I think that was the first act in some ways of translation. I write about the way that clothes move in the world, right, in my book, but I wanted to know, like, if I had the object in front of me, what were the stories that I could tell around it? So I think that it was the process of translation was actually taking the history, right, from context into object and then moving from there.
Wonderful. Thank you. A question for the group. In what way do you feel this year's theme stands out from previous years?
They're Black.
Okay. Well done.
We could go deeper, but
Yeah. And you all were in an earlier show, though.
Yeah, we were in the Lexicon of American Fashion. Did I say that right? I'm sorry. But yeah.
Still American.
Yeah.
America's.
Well, Black America is very
Americas, yeah.
distinguishable,
which is interesting because we talk about dandyism Black American. I think it's actually from the whole diaspora.
It is.
It's from
Yes.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
The exhibition is
everywhere
also
where melanin
representing that.
resides, that's where
Yes.
dandyism sits. From the Moors to the indigenous people here in the States to the peoples from everywhere across the globe in Africa to Europe, Australia, everywhere. Everywhere in the diaspora is where it sits. So I think the melting pot is in the West. Is where a lot of style and a lot of culture rises, where a lot of people look at. So it's going to absolutely be here, but I think it's drawn in from everywhere.
Right. I mean, the exhibition is also about the relationship between clothing, power, right, and race and ethnicity, right? So that is something that exists everywhere. Yeah.
Another question for the group. How do you balance the inspirations from your community history with the desire to create something new or bold?
How do you balance it?
I mean, there's a saying like everything is copy. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. So it's like to understand the future, you must understand the past. And for us, it's like you're a cultural historian. I like to say like I'm a rap, hip hop, streetwear like historian.
Yeah.
So it's like we draw from those things all the time. And for us, it's much more authentic than when other people do it because we lived it. And this is something that we were actually, inspired by. With some people, they just see it online on Pinterest and they're like, oh, I think that's cool, but they have no clue of the cultural significance
Right.
that a Pele had, that a do-rag has, that locks or braids have to our culture. So it's much more poignant.
Yeah. I have a question that's related to that I want to ask you all. I mean, I'm wondering sometimes, in terms of what you're pulling from, right? I want to know, when you're pulling from ideas, and you mentioned this a little bit, Soull. Yes, heritage and familial heritage or historical heritage and that kind of is really important and obviously really important to all of the work that you do. But sometimes you just want to pull something from completely elsewhere, right? I mean, so how do you? I think maybe it's that balance that might be interesting to think about, right?
Go ahead. Yeah. Twin things. Dynasty, I feel like we pull from things beyond our heritage of Dynasty and I are we'll study the dynasty of ancient China, Byzantine jewelry, Baroque, Victorian, Mayan, all of that stuff is beautiful, and I think when you can take it and bring it into your present world where, you're like Roe Brooklyn and mix those things together, that's how I think you do create something a bit new, It's
Right.
something that you haven't really seen before because there's a mixture of cultures,
Yeah, it's like
and
distilled.
and also
Yeah.
time periods too. So, if you're going back into Victorian era and then you mix it with Mayan or Egyptian or a dynasty or those are so many different timelines that you're jumping from past, present, and future all the time,
Yeah.
and you're I guess time traveling really.
Yeah.
Quickly to add, you said there's nothing new under the sun, right? Which is, I think that's that's the truth. And then there's so many things deep within the sea that we haven't even discovered yet.
Right. Right.
So I think even imagination and other people's imagination, so people who write books and stories and comics and things like that are ways to pull
Right.
from as well.
Okay. Cool.
Ideas that we haven't necessarily seen on Earth, but we've seen it within our mind's eye. And then it has yet to be discovered, I think, is really, really important as well.
Sure.
Cool.
Okay.
We have time for one final question.
That's it.
I'm sorry. Getting comfortable.
We keep talking after this.
Monica, what do you want people to leave the exhibition with?
Oh. Okay. So many things, but I keep saying this, but it's true, right? I I do hope, right, that the exhibition, because it's a long historical timeline, but also many different kinds of objects, right? But really centering Black designers and wearers. I really hope that we've provided, especially with all of the themes, we've provided different entry points for people into the exhibition, right? So, for example, maybe the distinction section is really something that you're interested in because maybe you're Haitian, right? But maybe the champion section where we're talking about the relationship between athletes and fashion, like maybe that's your thing, right? Or one of the other sections about disguise that I mentioned here, like which is really a little bit about what I call racial and class cross-dressing. Like maybe that's something that that's been interesting to you or that you've noticed, right? So I'm really hoping there are multiple entry points for people, right? So that they see things that are familiar in the exhibition, right? That may not, that may have happened 200 years ago or might be happening right now. So I want there to be familiarity in terms of the way that people use clothing to talk about themselves, right? Sometimes to imagine themselves differently, sometimes to just like honor who they are in the moment, right? Or, where they came from, right? But I'm also really hoping that for some people, they'll see something familial, right? That there'll be something in the exhibition that reminds you of your uncle, your father, your dad, your mom, whatever. I mean, I really think that there's enough in the exhibition that will touch people, right? In that more specific way. So I'm hoping for multiple entry, and then also, hopefully a little bit of soul. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. And as Monica said, having multiple access points, multiple ways to enter the exhibition, we are thinking very strategically and carefully about how we can match that through programming and experiences, both at the Met and off-site. So please, 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 as you join us here tonight, think about coming to the museum to see the exhibition, to engage with Monica and all the folks who put their blood, sweat, tears into making it happen. We welcome you, and if you can't make it to the Met, we'll come out and find you. And with that said, I do want to welcome Shadawn Smith, our gracious host for the evening, for closing remarks.
So, good evening. I'm so happy to see so many of you here this evening. I am Shadawn Smith, the Executive Director of the Billie Holiday Theater, affectionately known as the Billie. It has been a pleasure to have you in this magical place. A place born for Bedside Restoration Corporation during the Black Arts Movement and Black nationalism. This is the Obie, Adelco, and National Medal for the Arts award-winning Billie Holiday Theater. A place that has grown from an award-winning theater to a multi-platform performing arts center with an education program, artist residency, and exhibition space located in the historic Black cultural mecca of Bedford, Stuyvesant, one of the largest African-American communities in the nation of Central Brooklyn, even with gentrification. The Billie is a beacon for world-class art rooted in racial and social justice centered on community. Many of today's successful actors, writers, designers, and musicians developed their craft at the Billie Holiday Theater. Actors such as Samuel L. Jackson, Debbie Allen, Tashina Arnold, Bill Cobbs, Phyllis Yvonne Stickney, Carol Woods, Elaine Graham, and Ebony Joanne, to name a few. We continue our activist legacy as an active participant in the Black Lives Matter movement and reclaiming light as the ugly darkness of racial injustice and inequality surrounds us. We are unapologetic in allowing us to be unapologetic storytellers. We remain committed to supporting historic voices, but also to discovering new voices to share our truth, our stories on this stage, bridging the past, present, and future. In sharing the magic of the Billie, it is so fitting to be a partner with the Met in bridging this esteemed institution with the community around its highly anticipated upcoming exhibition, Superfine, Tailoring Black Style. These partnerships and conversations are necessary for the arts community to thrive. The Met could have chosen so many wonderful Brooklyn cultural organizations to bring this type of community programming to. And I am truly honored that the Billie is the home for the Met's second exhibition preview community conversation. And I hope it will not be the last. Thank you to Max Hollein, the Marina Kellen French director and CEO of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, to all of our esteemed panelists, thank you. And to a special thank you to the Met team for those endless Zoom calls to prepare for tonight, such as Heidi Holder, Sherry Williams, and Zile Johnson, Karina Kringrich, Isaac Newman, Janelle Thompson, and so many more. I'm also super grateful to have Ms. Anna Wintour and Andrew Bolton in the house. And again, thank you. We will continue this conversation out in the lobby where you can enjoy our current exhibition, We Love You, Black Woman. Please refer to the calendar card and our website to see all of our upcoming programs and events. And as the Billie turns 53 this year, we can only remain as this magical place with your support. Thank you again, and we hope to see you in the lobby.
What?